Late Night with the Devil.
Cameron Cairn and Colin Cairn, brothers, directed this. David Dastmalchian? Is that how you say his last name?
I don't know. I was looking up something like that.
David Dastmalchian. I saw this in theaters when it came out, and I rewatched it.
You didn't tell me that.
I know. It was cool because I knew how original I thought this movie was and how unique it was. And it's obviously an independent movie. How did you catch wind of this?
Same as always. I was looking through my library of stuff on my app I use, and then I saw Late Night with the Devil. I'm a huge fan of the actor. I liked him in Prisoners.
Yeah.
I liked him in The Suicide Squad, the more recent one, which is actually not bad, surprisingly.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple other things, and he's kind of like a side character, and I'm like, oh, cool, he has his own little starring role. And the IMDb was 7, which, as I've always said without my speech, means it's usually pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to know anything else besides that, so that's all I knew.
Okay.
And that's all I knew.
Yeah. How did you take it as far as there's a lot of symbolism in this movie? It's obviously a very unique setup. I have some things to ask you about suggestions of the occult and maybe Illuminati type groups, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But do you feel like a lot of it went over your head, or were you pretty in tune with what was going on?
Yeah, they're referencing actual real things. So for me, and I won't bring us there unless you want to talk there now, we can get there later or whatever. But suffice to say, it didn't go over my head because they're talking about things that are known for those that look. And it's not that, you don't have to look that very deep, by the way. For the movie, it's funny. I really wanted to love this because it has all the things we like. Independent. I like the actor.
Yeah.
It did. I liked how it looked. It did look 70s. Great. Controversial. I don't know why everyone's mentioning this, including me. I guess I'm feeding into it. I guess the cards to transition scenes were done with AI, and people said oh no, why is an independent film using AI? Which is dumb because that's great. I hate this whole idea of artists are going to lose their job. I'm or maybe 2 people can make a movie now and express themselves for just 2 people, with $1,000 budget. That's wonderful. Yeah. Sorry. So that was mentioned, through a lot of reviews. But anyway, it looked really good. The thing that stood out that was so strange to me is the performances were, minus him, were campy, and I thought it was supposed to be campy, but I realized some of them were not supposed. It was actually not great acting.
Yeah.
In many of the people, I feel, right? I was some of these people are just not really nailing it. And at first I was oh, because it's campy, that's how it's supposed to be. But then I'm no. You'd have to go through each scene, but some of it wasn't campy. They had to be serious in the scene, moving away from the campy, and then they got really serious, macabre serious, deathly serious, and it was clearly not. And the performances really screwed with me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I took it for this the first time, and I tried to pay more attention the second time I saw it. I assumed that these actors were playing these characters, how the characters would be if they were on a talk show, right? Obviously. And that kind of lent to the campiness. But when the cameras were off and they were turned away, there were moments they were still playing those characters like that. They didn't pull it back to reality. So that's where it kind of lost me. And I agree. I think the lead, David, was perfect in what he did. I thought he was great in that. I didn't really doubt his intention at all. But a lot of the characters, there was just a little bit lost there. And I'm with you. It kind of took me away from the story because I think it would have been cool to have had a more defined separation from when the cameras are rolling on the talk show versus when they're at commercial break or something like that. And I don't think it was, from an acting perspective, for me, it wasn't, there wasn't a clear enough separation there.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. So Occam's razor would tell you they were not great actors, unfortunately. They weren't great. How did I know that? And you just told me, I forgot. It was the transitions. You're right. They weren't doing a character playing a character, right? They were playing the character, right? Both tenses were correct of how they performed. And I was okay, this is not actually good or convincing. And then the dialogue suffered because the writing suffered, or vice versa, whatever. There was some weird parts, they were going for sort of humorous and sort of deadpan at some points, but it fell flat and it didn't fit. And they tried to make the dialogue familiar and casual, like it should be, but it failed, and it wasn't familiar and casual. It was artificial, and forced.
Yeah.
And why I like it is because then you get to there's always doing we always have unique reviews and whatnot, and then it makes you realize oh, hey, I hate to say this, but I really feel bad about it. I genuinely do. It's this is an example of a movie that had the great setup, maybe even theme. I always talk about all the elements you have to have, but the performances quite glaringly messed it all up in a lot of ways. I thought the special effects were a little bit body horror and silly, but they weren't terrible. I wasn't put off. entirely, especially the budget. But like, I'm like, wow, the dialogue and performances were not great, and it kind of ruins the whole movie then in a lot of ways.
Do you know the budget? Did you find that out?
No, but I will say, I'm surprised you didn't mention this already. Did you see how many damn screens before the movie started were? There was like 15.
Yeah. It was a lot.
You know what I'm talking about? Where it was like produced by, like, also produced by, like, in association with.
Yeah.
Also, I was like, holy shit. It was like, okay, I think it might have been more than 10. I think it was more than 10.
It was a lot.
So,
it was excessive.
Again, I thought it was the movie. I thought the movie was like, it was a part of the movie. It was so like over the top. So
I remember the first time I saw it in theaters, we were laughing because we thought it was a joke.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was like, dude, this is like the 9th screen. I was like, oh, they're making it's deadpan. They're making a Judd's camp. I was like, no. There's literally like 12 people or 12 things involved with this production.
Yeah, everyone's got to get their shout out, I guess. Yeah. I wonder how that works with all these production companies that come to, like, how they come together on a producing scale and basically put their funds together and make the thing happen when there are so many hats in the ring or so many hands involved. It'd be interesting to know because that's a lot. It doesn't bother me, and I know you had mentioned that in a previous episode, but it was comical here because it was. Yeah, and again, I thought it was part of the movie, just kind of making fun of that element of independent movies.
That was the same thing. I was like, oh, they're doing tongue in cheek. Okay, I get. And I'm like, oh wait, no. This is it. I don't know why I mentioned this, but it's not creepy because she's not a child. She's like, I think 19 or 18 or what. She's still young. I thought the demonically possessed person she was really pretty. Her eyes were very striking. I thought she was very striking, I should say. So that was cool because it was so close, man. Like I said, like when she came on and she had the creepy stare and was just clearly like off a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm invested. Where are we going with this? And then where did we go indeed with this? Like what? And then the other guy that's like the guy that proves people are fake, mind controls the whole theater. And
that was Ian Bliss again, Carmichael Haig, I believe. Yeah. Just the constant cynic up there. Yeah, for me, man, and I've said this, I feel like this is becoming a pretty redundant thing, but I respect what they did and the swing that they took because this was very original. For me, it didn't affect me the way I wanted it to. And this is having seen it in the theater without knowing anything about it. I definitely picked up on more of the symbolism the second time around, which I think, I definitely want to talk about that because I think that's probably the most interesting part of the movie is what these people, and in this case, this character Jack Delroy are willing to do to become successful in the job that they obsess over in this very competitive industry of entertainment. And this suggests basically selling your soul or sacrificing a loved one for your success.
Let's just go there. So let's talk a little bit about the opening. I don't know, for our 10 listeners or comments or whatever, I always qualify these statements because I really care about accuracy. And most recently, we had a lot to talk about with Rogan and Candace Owens and Ian Carroll, who came on Rogan, who went over some stuff I've been talking to you about for a long time, which is now becoming more mainstream. I'll say no more besides check it out if you haven't heard about it already. And a lot of the weird stuff's finally coming out and becoming normalized. And I think, quote unquote, normies are waking up. Bohemian Grove is a Wikipedia. You can go with Bohemian Grove right now and look it up. Yeah. Alex Jones famously infiltrated behind the enemy lines there and saw senators, presidents, vice presidents, political figure, like top people. This is everything I'm saying right now is not wrong. Now, this specific, I don't remember which president, all the names of them, but a president, yes, or president, vice presidents, senators, CEOs, top lawyers, correct. All those people go to Bohemian Grove, which is originally only for men. I don't know if women could go now or if they flex the rules, and would do weird stuff. Alex Jones footage, they are like wearing like animal heads, I think, and they're like burning things in effigy. This is all public. You can find this out right now if you like.
Does he actually have footage?
Yeah, he got there, but he went behind there and got footage. That's what kind of made him. It wasn't what could put him on the map because we're talking like 20 years ago. He did this. It helped, but his footage got put out and whatnot. And then you can find interviews of like, I'm making this part. I'm making. I can't remember the exact person. There's like a senator, I think a president or vice president, are saying something like, "Oh yeah, well if you're this and this, then why are you at Bohemian Grove?" And this guy would get mad, like, what? I'm not taught. What are you taught? Like they would get mad, but they were actually there, provably so. So it's a real place where the elite meet and do weird stuff, just like the Bilderberg group, by the way. Everyone can look that up, the Bilderberg Group. It's a real place. That's a men's club in California, I think, somewhere, where they go together. And I wish I had more details. We had an expert on, because I'd give you all the bad stuff. I know it's real. I know it's all top people. I know they at least do the weird dress up. You can find these photos of them dressing up, animal heads, weird satanic stuff, burning stuff. That's with the Alex Jones videos, weird stuff, right? And why I dislike people saying like the plausible deniability, like, oh, well, come on, Dan, like, it's odd. I'll admit that, like you might say that's odd, Dan, but I'm like, well, come on, man. These are like the people that run the world. And that is very odd. I'm saying those people should never, in any case, ever be part of that. I mean, ever, like ever. That should be the steady state. And it's not. Someone might say, okay, that's certainly odd, man. But like, we all do weird. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, I don't want my president or vice president or senator, like a part of that in any respect. That's very strange, by the way. So that's some of my take on that part of it. You go ahead.
Yeah, because they call it the Grove in the movie, right? Where the tall trees are.
Yeah, Bohemian Grove. That's what they're playing on, Bohemian Grove. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think Trump's ever been there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I looked it up too. Employs ex-military personnel to help secure the area. They use high-end security equipment, thermal, night vision, cameras, motion detectors, et cetera, year-round to protect this area that's, I guess, just outside of San Francisco, 2,700 acres. Huge area. But there are photos online of like Nixon, Reagan, other people. Kind of interesting. Makes you speculate, but I guess there was, maybe it's the video you're referring to. I kind of heard about it briefly, that there was some sort of figure wearing a mask, and they had someone set on fire, and they were screaming and laughter and that sort of thing.
That's what I'm probably talking about. The reason I didn't go details is actually surprisingly much as I say, I know all about these things. I know about a different angle of these things. Right. And by things, I mean deep state, elites, blackmail, the weird stuff. This one I haven't looked, because there's so many. This is one of them. I don't know enough about Bohemian Grove. I don't know all of it. I do know the video. I do know they're screaming. I do know they're all like chanting and shit, and you can find the video. Yeah. And I'm almost positive it came from Alex Jones when he went behind there and released it. But I don't know much more than that, so I don't like going into the deeper, right? But that's my understanding of what you're saying.
It'd be really interesting to try to get people who've worked there, because they have to have employees, and kind of, I'm sure they sign NDAs and they're sworn to secrecy if they see shit. But be interesting to know, man.
That's the gentle way. They probably will literally kill them if they say
or that or that. Yeah. But this begs the question, and I think there's no secret that people who achieve certain amounts of success sacrifice a lot on a personal level, whether it's within themselves or even their family and loved ones. And it just seems like more and more of a common thing, probably than anyone is aware of, or we're certainly aware of, has happened for, I'm sure, years and years and years now.
Thousands.
Yeah. And it's almost a selling of the soul. And that's kind of what this movie is touched on. And this guy, I guess he makes an agreement that sacrifices his wife to cancer, and he deals with that torment in, whatever devilish ways come into the scenario throughout the story, and it ends with him, I guess, in a delusional state. But yeah, it's a really interesting take on this whole thing and this whole world, and it's cool to see a movie kind of touch on this controversial topic that I'm assuming a lot of producers and big time actors and people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because they don't want to be involved in something like that, or even raise speculation that anything like this happens. Yeah,
and I'm glad you mentioned that, because now I can say, do I want to say brave? Not necessarily brave, but we mentioned something like this, or bold, or whatever. And I don't mean to just attribute to you, but you're talking about Blink Twice. And I was like, no, this gets no praise for me, because they went with a complete other direction. They went complete false. They took a premise and went false. This one illustrated pretty well. Yeah, you get elite people, you do weird stuff, you sell your soul, you get to become a celebrity, a politician, a senator, a pop star, or whatever, and you usually have to do something with kids that's filmed or not filmed, whatever. Or you kill someone, or you do whatever. And they went there. They actually went there. Blink Twice pretended to go there, but didn't actually go there, by the way. These people, yeah, I know they went there, they did it in a campy way, because I think it's probably the safest way to do it without getting yourself assassinated. So they went there.
I wonder if there have been really powerful figures who have been invited or have attended something like this, whether it's Bohemian Grove or Bilderberg, and they realize, I don't want to be involved in this at all, and they turn and walk, and what that leads to, you know?
Remember the movie a long time ago, there's something called The Skulls? And
yeah,
the
sure.
Skulls,
yeah.
They would all go underground to this, like, I don't know, Iron Maiden of sorts,
Right.
I think it was. And they would sit and say something horrible they did, so they'd have blackmail each other, right? Which, by the way, there was a Skulls, and I think Bush was a part of it, the Skulls and Bones, something like that. These clubs all exist at, like, Harvard's and Stanford's, and you can find these out, no problem. That's what they were playing on, by the way. But to answer your question, you can't walk away, because they'll make sure you can't walk away. They'll find a thing that will end you, or they'll just kill you, right? Most commonly, heart attack, car accident, plane crash, weightlifting accident is kind of the inside joke.
Yeah.
Or suicide. Those are your options, basically. So if you hear that, and if something weird happened, or someone seems a little bit more brave than usual, and then any of those 4 or 5 things happen, you start seeing the patterns. Most recently, Aaron Carroll, which is kind of I guess he'd be labeled they label a conspiracy theorist, but he's just a independent journalist would be the accurate way to describe him. And he's been looking at a lot of interesting influences on Rogan. And Rogan has been blowing up this particular podcast more than I've seen him do anything ever, by the way. Simultaneously, Candace Owens, who's out here with Theo Vaughn in Nashville, both of them, did a podcast with the same thing, almost like it was planned. And they are boldly talking about the stuff I talk to you about all the time without holding back whatsoever. Look, we're not going to save the world overnight, and I have my skepticism about a lot of things. I still think, don't trust there's heroes out there going to save you. Knowledge is power, but people are definitely waking up and paying more attention to all the weird stuff. Me and a lot of other people, and to humble myself, people have been saying longer than I have when I was like, a nobody, a child. Probably been saying it for decades. Now people are going to start seeing it in the mainstream, and that's good. I want people to. It'll surprise them. It'll change how they interact with the world, and we desperately need that right now.
Truth should be out there. So, just to rewind for a second, you said that Candace Owens was on Theo Vaughn. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that was yesterday. I watched both of them. I watched both of them the same day, actually. Surprisingly.
And he's based in Nashville, right?
They both are. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Rogan is too.
No. Ian Carroll is a guy that's he went on Rogan, which is in Austin. I think Ian Carroll's from San Francisco. He was a lefty. He was a far lefty. Look, all these people are still going to be controlled, like a libertarian, whatever you want to call it. Candace right leaning, and then Theo Vaughn is right leaning, but they would call Candace far right. They both are in Nashville. The Ian Carroll one's good. I really am. I'm for us and our community of people that track this stuff, which is not like some small community. It's people that are just quiet about this. Even me, kind of double speaking as I'm saying this now because it's going to go on YouTube. Not a lot of white pills for us, but this one's a big white pill. We're kind of like, oh my God, They're saying the thing. They're actually saying the thing. It's out there now, and I know how it works. It's not hard. You can say something like Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg. Now, if you go to primary or if you go to like first source, like Wikipedia, obviously that's controlled. They changed the definition of vaccine, duh. But if you dig deeper, you dig one more layer deeper, you'll quickly see stuff. You'll remember me showing you video of Tower 7, for example, and it just takes a little bit of looking, and then you're like, wait a minute. The digital age is both a blessing and a curse in that way.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a windfall for things getting exposed from the powerful and the elite. And I think we've yet to see what kind of windfall that can be. But hold on to your hat, I think, because if people are exposed that are very powerful, then we may be in deep shit. And by powerful, I mean billions and billions of dollars, and they control a lot of property and, whatever. List goes on. Yeah,
a fox caught in a trap will chew its own paw off to get out of the trap.
Exactly. Well, it's again, back to what we said. It's good that there's a movie and movies or television, even podcasts that are tackling stuff like this and talking about it. And I think that's the beginning of a good thing, is to get stuff out there and understand, complicated topics like this, because I don't know. I don't know what the truth is, but I'm certainly open to hearing all sides, and it's nice to feel like there's some authenticity coming through for stuff that's been covered up for a long time.
Yeah. So in that way, and like you said, it's funny because I think we're both aligned in this movie is thank you source material, or thank you material, thank you for this lead actor, but
yes,
sorry, it's still not a movie, my friends. I give it a 6.
6.5 for me. Could have been better. No disrespect for anyone for trying, their best and acting their hearts out, but authenticity is important, and you got to understand the scene and the position you're in as a character. Not to say these people didn't, but I didn't buy it. For the most part, I think David Dastmalchian is really, really nice, and I think it's really good to see a character actor get a lead role. It's cool. So hopefully he continues that trajectory and he gets more good work.
Yeah, and I do want to qualify it too, because I feel a little bad sometimes when I think about it. It's like, these are real humans. Now that we actually got a comment from a producer of a movie on our podcast already. Like, look, if you're the actor or actress in this, I also understand with some limitations that a director might say, no, this is exactly how I want you to do it, and you're not doing it, and the writing. So I understand you can be somewhat forced into a corner, right? But that's the out I'll give. I understand that could be the case.
No, it's good you understand that, because that's so true. When you're on set and your time is money, you got to move. And if you're making a decision the director doesn't like, he tells you to go a different way, you listen. You listen, unless you want to be a diva on set, which that's never a good idea. But I guess if you're on a certain number on the call sheet or have a certain amount of popularity, you can do that. But these people certainly don't. So they do the job to the best of their ability. And I don't think anyone faltered there.